Roland. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. So, for everybody out there, this is Lisbeth Calandrino, and this is the hiring workshop. And I am lucky to have with me today, I have Roland Thompson, who owns Thompson Flooring, and I believe that's Baltimore, Maryland, right? Or
It's outside of Baltimore. It's in
outside of
Frederick. Yep.
Baltimore.
Yep.
And
Close enough.
Roland has had a floor covering store for how many years did we say the other day?
Well, I started in the business in '72. But I was with a Carpet One for 22, and then I opened up my own store in 17.
So, you started as an installer, correct?
Yep. That's still what I do by heart.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to ask you some questions, Rowland.
Hmm.
You know, so let's start. Okay, so where do we find installers these days? Over the years, you've probably got some places that you've talked with and you have some idea. Give us the scoop.
Well, it's not like it used to be. Back when I started in '72, we'll make it quick. Basically you found it by relatives and family members or friends that worked at the company you worked at, and they would say how good the company was, and the young people would come in and brother-in-laws and sons and everything would come and work. But nowadays it's different. It's completely different nowadays. You got to, because everybody is fighting for the same people. You got the
Right.
electricians, the plumbers, the painters, and everybody is looking for the same person. So you have to get really creative when you're looking for an employee, whether it be sales, installers, estimators, or what. You got to get really unique about what you're looking for. So, you know, um, you got to keep your eyes open for people that are hungry and everything else. So it's different nowadays. And you got your online, for sales and management. You have your deeds and people like that you can reach out to. But when it comes to the installers and people like that, you got to go out and hustle it.
Okay, so let's talk about apprentices. So, how can people use apprentices and where maybe can they find them?
Well, fortunately for me, guys that I've hired have stayed with me until they're ready to go out on their own. I have a very good track record of guys that are people that are in the industry. Because I helped them once they got to that point and I got them trained. It was, I would help them, you know, go out and land jobs and move in with either dealers and things like that. So, but nowadays, you gotta look at it anywhere you can. And I look for a few things like people coming back from the military.
Oh,
And
okay. So let me just, okay. So military is one place. Go ahead.
yep, I've hired a couple guys that came back from them, got them trained out, and I could name their names, but they're pretty successful now. Military is one. Another one that I look at that I've hired off from is uh, younger kids and that work at the places I go for my morning coffee or my afternoon. I'll go get coffee just for the excuse to go in and at regular places, and I see people that show up for work every day. They give me my coffee with a smile on their face, you
Okay.
know, and you sort of strike a conversation with them and see if there's something, they're looking for any kind of a trade. And I've pulled a couple people, Larry for one, Underwood, that's where it was. It was where I got my coffee is where I met him, and he ended up being with me a good many years.
I don't think people think about that. I mean, maybe if you were looking for a salesperson, you might think that way. But for an installer,
No,
I think that's very interesting. You're really looking for what they might be looking for in a trade, right? You're trying to see if maybe do they have any experience doing something with hammer and nails? I mean,
well, see, I look at it this way. A person's attitude and is just as important to me because like when I do a follow-up call with my clients, I ask them how the job looks, of course, but then my next questions are, were they pleasant? Were they pleasant to be around? Did you enjoy them being in your home? Did they clean up and have your house back in the way that you wanted it? That's just as important to me. So I can teach a person a trade. I can teach them hand skills, but you can't always teach people person skills. And to me, a person skills, whether it be a sales or an installer or what, is just as important. You give me somebody that's good with they're good with their hands and have good person skills, but um, I'll hire them quicker than I will that somebody that's really good with their hands and don't have any personal skills, because customers don't like you in your home. They're not coming. Coming back to you.
Okay, so one of the most important things to do is when you're out there looking is to look for people who have person to person skills. Somebody who's pleasant, somebody who has follow up, somebody who can smile, somebody who you can connect with, because you're a good connector. That's one thing you're really good at.
Well, let me give you sort of a rundown when I meet somebody that I think might be a fit, because it's got to be a fit,
Okay.
not just with me with them. It's got to be a fit with them with me, and so you got to like each other. If you don't like each other, no sense being there working with each other. And so I'll find somebody that looks like might be interesting. So then I'll start a conversation, and the conversation won't be so much about work. He'll be sort of getting an idea. Did they play sports, and not just sports? Were they in a band? Were they in a glee group, or did they play sports? Because what that tells me is that they're used to being a team player. And so, if you want somebody that's a team player, that can work well with others. So that gives me, okay, they were in that type of thing. Well, then I'm going to ask them, hey, how would you like to have lunch with me? And why I say have lunch with me is because I'm going to take them to a place that's a sit down, not a fast food place. Then I'm going to take them to a restaurant. What I'm going to do is, I'm sort of being nosy. I'm going to watch how they walk. If they're walking and they're dragging their feet, they're telling me, a little bit of laziness up there somewhere. They can't even pick their feet up. Now, tell me I'm strange, but somebody did that to me years and years ago, and it sort of stuck with me. All right. And so then I'll sit down and we'll order. And when the food comes, I'll watch to see if they salt and pepper their food before they taste it. And you think, why do you do that? And I'm going to go, because the guy told me that, hey, you're making a judgment of what that food is before really looking at all the things.
Yes, you are.
All right. So I'm like, really? This is pretty neat. He's giving me some lessons here. So I do that. Well, then, and I'll bring that up to him. I'll tell him I looked at that. I'll go, well, so why did you salt and pepper your food without tasting it? Believe it or not, it took my salt intake, cut it down to next to nothing. It really did. And because of a simple thing like that. And so that opens the door. So I might talk about things, then I'll talk about their school life. I sort of see if they're saying that they missed a lot of days, where they, don't have to be an A student, don't have to be a B student. It has to be a student that dedicated, at least they went and gave their best, because not everybody is made up to be an A student. But if they went there and didn't hook school and didn't miss school, and they went there and they did their best, that's all right with me. That's fine, because I wasn't an A student, So I'd ask those kind of questions. So those are the things when you're looking for somebody. In my book, how I look is I'm looking for a rounded person that I feel is going to show up for work, going to be a team player, and they're out there. You just, like I said, the military. They've been, somebody in the military. I want to know if they gave their 2-year tour, or whether did they try to get out after the first 6 months.
So where do you find them, Roland? You're mentioning the military. So how would you go about looking for them?
Well, see, in my area, okay, you have a lot of military, being close to DC, being close to Walter Reed Hospital, and being close to those places like that. You have a lot of military that's moved into this area. You got Fort Detrick, you got, Fort Meade, so you have a lot of guys that come in, they get settled into this area, then they get out. And they're either looking to move to find a job, or they're looking to find a job local. So there's many military people in this area. So fortunately for me, I have that. And so, so that's an area where we can look at. But you got to be ready, because so is the plumbers, electricians, and everybody else looking for
the same people. So let me ask you a question. Through the military, is there any kind of money available for them to work for training? Is that another piece? Because that when I was in business, there were lots of places where you could get money.
Correct.
And one of them, well, you tell me that, and then I'll talk about prison systems.
Well, there's places that they can go for to
Yes.
get training. So there's not so much. I guess there could be, but I've never really looked into it. But there's money for the military to use for education.
Yes.
And that's the FCEF. That's one of the things that they're going after, is that there is money out there for military people that can go for the training. And trainings and nowadays in our industry is a lot's out there, and it's very important.
So when I was in business, a lot of the prisons had programs. In fact, where I am in Albany, a friend of mine used to teach floor covering installation. And so when people got out, there was also money through the state to have them get a job, and in some places pay their wages for several months, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I have never used that, but I had a friend named Jerry Harmon. He was a CFI guy in that. He taught in the prison system up there in Roanoke, Virginia area. He taught up until he retired. He was a teacher in that prison system. So they have it here too. Okay,
so that is another place that people could look for. Now, in New York, we have trade schools. BOCES is some of what they're called. It's Board of Cooperative Education System. And basically what it means is for people who are in the trades, and they may not be as sophisticated as you need them, but they are in the trades, and they are maybe they're just doing woodworking or something like that. But I'm wondering if there's anything like that in Maryland. I know in New York there is places where you might be able to pick up a high school student, or maybe, right?
Yeah, we have, they still have the vocational, they call it the Frederick County Trades Foundation here in Maryland, or here in Frederick, where I live. And I've done their last 10 homes. The deal was that I'd come in, get all the flooring done, but their students had to help me. So it takes about every 2 years for them to build a house, because they're, they used to let them work in the summer so they could get one a year. But now with all the laws and that, they don't let them work in the summers anymore. So it takes them about 2 school years to build a house. And that's the deal with them. That I'll come in and do all the labor for free with help from the Votexo. And I've had a good many, not too many of the ladies help out in the carbon portion, but I have a good many ladies that'll get in and with the hardwood and get down and start swinging a hammer and doing some hardwood.
Okay, so you've given some ideas about where to find them. So now let's just say we pick up an apprentice, or somebody that you've just picked up, that new person that you've been talking about. Give us an idea of like how you would put together, maybe a simple training program for them, so that they can kind of learn the trade.
Well, fortunately for me, there again, being a certifier and trainer in the industry for multiple CFI and other organizations, it's sort of easier for me because I already had the curriculum done. So for me to stick, I have stair modulars that out in my warehouse. I got a stretch room out in my warehouse for carpet, and have different platforms for the hardwood, the layout that we do trainings with. So for me, it's easier for me to be able to do that. Now, most of the dealers are going to have to reach out to people to put somebody into an apprenticeship program, either send them to the 5-week course with CFI or the CTEF or, NWFA. They're going to have to invest into that and to put them through those programs. They still can put them out there with an installer, but they need to hand pick the installer, and they got to compensate the installer for doing so. Like you said, that the government will pay to have somebody done. And when I say you have to handpick, and nowadays, not back in the old days where people were pretty happy, but nowadays, and you'll have to admit that there's installers out there that you get a young guy or a young woman, you put them out there with an installer, and they spend the day listening to how bad this industry is. So after about the fifth week, he's going, why? They're going, why should I be in this industry? The guy I'm working with hates it. I'm going to look somewhere else. So you got to make sure you put them with an installer that has the same mindset as you do and likes
Yes.
the industry. So you get them with them, and they're willing to train, and you sort of compensate. It's not all about money anymore when it comes to keeping an employee. A lot of it's respect.
Now let's talk about, because that was really my next question is, so now we have somebody and we're starting to train them. So how are we going to keep them? Like you said earlier, is that it's very competitive. Everybody's after the same person.
Mhm.
So what, and I know that you're good at this. I know that you know what it takes to keep them. So share let's talk about respect.
Okay, when with me, and everybody that installs from me, and even now, even the subcon, because I use a lot of subcontractors, you know, we're friends, and I know about their families, and I was talking with Fredo just the other day, and he's saying, my son's going to graduate in another 6 years, and I'm going to cut back on some of what I do, and you know, and so you become friends with them, and you don't have to go to lunch with them every day or have them over to your house every day, but you got to show them respect and that you care about them, and you listen to their likes and dislikes. And this morning I spent 20 minutes with an installer, and I'm like, don't you think you ought to be leaving? Well, we were talking about the football games and things like that. So they just felt comfortable that they can do that. So that's part of keeping installers. Like I said, you got to pay them good, and you got to pay them their worth, and you got to pay them to make a living, just like you want to make a living and have vacations and supply things for your family. But in the same realms, you can do that and lose them. But if you do that and you treat them with respect, and you show that you care about them, and you're interested about them, and you're interested about things that they do, you're going to keep them as a longtime friend and a longtime employee.
Roland, one of the things I've noticed is that retailers have a tendency to kind of overstep their bounds with installers. It's kind of like, you need to be there. You didn't finish the job, or we've got to put that in tomorrow, even though I screwed up because I didn't have all the materials you needed. And so somehow the installer, who knows that that is the last person on the job, right? And
Right.
it's probably not going to get paid, because a lot of retailers don't get the job paid for up front, which is what I would do and what I did. And so now we overstep our bounds. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what can you expect from a human?
Well, there again, it comes down to I find that if you treat them with respect, and you go the extra mile as a owner, you'll find that the installer will go the extra mile for you. Prime example, like I said, I was with a Carver One, running all the crews and running the customer service and all that for a Carver One for a lot of years. And the salespeople that did the simple thing of out when they're out measuring, knowing they check to see what jobs were going into theirs that day, because they were paid on completed jobs, on that their commission was set up on completion. And so they knew what their jobs were going on. If they knew the installer well enough, and like I said, it's about I know what every one of my installers, what they like to drink. you know People know me, know I like coffee. But, so if you're out doing measures, swing by the job, stop by, take them a cup of coffee. If
Nice.
you, if you, or a soda or an iced tea and things like that, and just see, hey, I thought I'd stop by. Here's a drink for you. It's hot out today. It's cold out today. Here's the coffee. Um, you know, if something comes that happens, they were short, or they had to put an extra seam, or they had to, maybe refigure a job to make the tile have enough tile or something like that. They're willing to do that. They'll do that for them. That those salesmen that did that never had problems with installers not finishing for them if it was possible. If it
Okay,
was
so
possible, they'd finish for them. Ones that treated them like they were second class citizens, and the installers wouldn't go out of their way. Matter of fact, they'd go out of their way not to get done. You know?
yeah, so you know what? I think one of the things you said about the salesperson showing up on the job, I always would send my salespeople, that was part of their in-store training, that they
Mhm.
would go out on jobs as a helper. I said, get your jeans on. You're going out as a helper for 2 weeks. You're going to be on the back end of that big, heavy roll. And then you're going to realize what it's like when you don't get a cut and you needed to because you didn't have time. And
Mhm.
I really think that is part of maybe building the respect you're talking about.
Well, it is. It is a start, and that's what a lot of It is a good thing to have salespeople shadow the installers and get an idea of what they go through, but that's still not the total respect is learning. When I give my seminars, sales seminar, one of the questions I'll ask is, okay, to the salespeople, I'll say, okay, how many know their installers? I'll ask them, what's their names, and they'll name out some of them. I'll go, okay, are they married? Oh, I don't know. Do they have kids? Oh, I don't know. Learn. I say, then I'll sit there and turn the tables on them, and I'll go, okay, name the other salespeople that you work with. They name them. Are they married? Oh yeah, and they name. You got the kids. They know a lot of the kids' names. Why don't you know your installers as well as you know your salespeople, other salespeople you work for? And that's if you do that, you'll see that most, like I said, I've been very fortunate through all the years I've been in it that I haven't had any person walk in and say I quit because I don't like working for you. You know, they've when they've left on terms with me, and I'm still good friends with them. They've come and got certified by me later. So if you treat people the way they should be treated, you'll see that they're going to be dedicated to you.
I like what you said. We talk about treat people the way you want to be treated. That's not good enough. You have to
Yeah,
treat people the way they want to be treated,
correct.
right?
You're right.
That's the real key. Now, tell everybody, you got your CFI hat on.
Oh,
So
I
talk
had
about what that means, and should business owners, should they get their installer certified? What kind of things should they help them do so they can get to the next level?
I had the CFI certified hat on. I could have put on, NFIC, a good many of them. So, but I was picking on Liz and about her hats. Anyway,
Oh,
but
right. My hat, we didn't get to do that this year.
I walked in my warehouse to say, do I have something crazy I can put on my head that looks like a hat? But I couldn't find anything, so I only I only got 200 ball caps out there. And anyway, so but certification, I was one that back years ago because before I got certified, I'd been in the business for 20 some years before of course, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, they really weren't given that many certifications, but I had got my arm strong in that. But, you know, um, it's a step, you know, certification knowledge is power, you know,
Okay.
knowledge is power. So the more you know, the more power you have on what you do. And so I looked at it this way is that I sat there and thought, they don't have a flooring college. Now you got Carpet One and NWFA and all that have Mohawk have universities that you can go on and on the online universities. A lot of guys in this field, you know, going on and trying to do it online and read it, they're hands-on people.
Right.
So, they're hands-on. They learn better by hands-on. That's me. I learn better by hands-on. Now I go into those things because I've, made myself, but I'd preferably do it hands-on. And so, I wouldn't have thought, well, they really don't have a foreign college. but they have a lot of this kind of stuff. So that's when I started going to it, and realized, hey, I'm not as smart and didn't know as much as I thought I did, And so certification's a powerful tool. There again, it's a tool, that you can use, and and it gives you networking. That if I come across something, even me today, I come across something I haven't seen yet, which I try to keep up on everything, but there's some stuff slips in that I haven't seen, and man, first thing I'm doing is making a call to somebody that's smarter than me, that's done all the training. Somebody like John Namba. Hey, John, what's this? I got your cell, and I'm calling you. You know,
Right.
So it gives you that networking. With if it's a certain mill. I'll call Andrew Smith. Who's
Right.
with Engineered Floors, and say, Andrew, what's this new products you have out of here? How should I work with it? Being certified is not only hand things; it's a networking program also that a lot of people don't realize.
So it sounds like also that as a storing owner, we have the responsibility in many ways to educate our installers
For sure, you do.
on new products, new tools, new ways to install, because if we don't give them that information, they will have problems
Oh,
with
sure.
product.
I mean, you get a new product that comes into your store, whether it be carpet with a new backing, the Shaw lifeguard backing, um, with the new LVPs, the rigid cores, and things like that. You have them products that come into your store, and they're a new system. You as a store owner is obligated, and the first thing you do is you run and have a sales meeting. This is this new product we got, and this is what it does. So you add a tool to your salespeople to sell it. But for heaven's sakes, the same day you better have an installation meeting to have the guys know people know how to install it. Because if it goes out in there and they've never seen it, and they try to do something the same way they did something else and it fails, whose fault is it? It's the store owner's fault. They didn't educate them. They sent them a new product that they never educated their installers on.
And if you're an installer and you get enough of that and it all gets screwed up and they send you the wrong adhesive and everything, or you don't even know what to ask for, that's why you're out of there. That's
Correct.
one of the reasons we lose them, right?
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If you throw your installers through the wolves enough time, they're leaving you.
Okay, so I'm going to review with you. So some places you said we should look. We should look at the military. We should look at the high schools. We should look at, and what you're looking for is you're really looking for interest. You are looking for attitude. You want people that are good with other people, because that's the bottom line. They
Sure
can
it
be the
is.
best installers in the world. And after they've been in the house for a day and they get into it with the customer, nobody wants them back again. They can be
Right.
really good. I've had those. And you get complaints all the time because they're miserable, and people kind of forget how good the job was, right?
Right.
So
Oh yeah.
you need
I'll
to
give.
figure
I'll
that
just.
out.
I'll give you a quick story. I just make it try to make it quick. I went to this job and I was still installing them for this company, and I went to this job in this lady's house, and it was back in the day that carpet was put in kitchens. You remember that, Liz?
I do.
We were putting them bright colors in kitchens all the time. All right. Well, I was there to do other rooms. Well, they had their kitchen done about a month prior to, and I was sent out. And I'm sitting there walking past the kitchen door, and I'm looking in, and it was bad. It was bad. And I'm looking. I'm like, so after part of the day, I couldn't control myself anymore, and I said to the homeowner, I said, you want me to go in there and try to fix some of that stuff in that kitchen? She goes, no, it's okay. I said, but ma'am, I said, why didn't you call with the issues I see in there? She said, because that young man, and it was a young guy that had just hadn't been doing it very long, and they had sent out to do it because they figured, oh, it's a glue down piece of carpet. All right.
Right.
And she said, because that young man was so nice, there was no way I was calling and getting him in trouble. And I'm willing to live with this because I like that boy so much. And that, I was like, wow, this is strong. Now, is that with everybody? No. But that shows the power of people liking you. Just like they'll buy from you if your prices are higher because they like you and trust you, they will have that same installer back in because they trust him and liked him before they'll have somebody that might be a little bit better on installing, they're going to go with that other person.
I'm so excited that I've had you here today. Roland Thompson from Roland Thompson Floors right outside of Maryland. And he's a member of the CFI. He did some judging at surfaces. He's the guy who walks around and looks at everything that's installed to look for the winners. And you came up with some terrific ideas today, like where to look for people, what we're hiring for. And you're saying you could teach them how to install. You can't teach them to have a great attitude and to be nice to people, right? And you're looking for people who are strong team builders and that can work with you. And then you mentioned we as owners have to treat them right. We have to educate them. We can't, like you said, throw them to the wolves. And just because there's a new product, we don't bother to tell them about it. We have to help them with that. And we got to take good care of them because without them, nothing works.
And don't be afraid nowadays. Like I said, things have changed. Don't be afraid nowadays to look at the younger women and ladies. And because you don't have as many. I know a few, that do carpet, but with the hard surface nowadays being as prominent as it is, you have a lot of them that are getting into it, and so it used to be you would look for a guy, but nowadays
a big guy.
Yeah, a big guy that could, But nowadays it's open there. That the field and the door has opened for, this industry is open, and the trainings have opened for, person of any nationality, any sexual, it's open there for them. So, that did open the doors more when we've opened the industry for that.
Okay, good enough. So, Roland, thank you very much.
No problem.
And I'm sure I'll run into you at surfaces in Mandalay Bay trying on hats.
Oh, yeah, most likely.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you again.
All right. Thank you for having me. You have a good day. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.